Holy cow, Civilization 7's June patch update is ginormous. It brings us closer to a classic Civilization experience. More control, more options, more difficulty variety. Maps are huge, and settlements, towns, city-states and more are more varied than ever before. I'd also like to show you some of the changes buried a little deeper in the patch notes that bring things like piracy to life in Civ 7. Oh, and Steam Workshop support has arrived. Let's take a look. Do you notice anything different here? The first changes take place before the game begins. Most notably, the legacy paths and their victories, as well as the overall score victory, can now be toggled on or off. Individually, if you don't like the cultural legacy path, no problem, just turn it off in one age or in all of them. Regardless, this will also, by the way, disable the associated victory condition. So, if you turn off science, there will be no space race at the end of the game. One of the criticisms against adding a Civ classic mode, when Civs and leader combos don't change throughout a game, and maybe the legacy paths aren't there too, was that it would ruin balance. It might mess things up. I feel like that argument loses a lot of its strength now that individual legacies, or indeed entire pathways, can be shut down. It's an interesting step toward a more sandboxy, classic-y Civ experience, and the way I see it, player choice is always a good thing. Further customization and control features in this update include a crisis selector, same idea as the legacy toggles, turn those individual annoying ones on or off, or just use the overarching settings. Thirdly, you can now, as promised, bypass Civ unlocks, another step towards a slightly more sandboxy experience. Here you can select any Civ available within the age, with no unlock restrictions. And fourthly and finally in this more rapid-fire section, independent power hostility can be dialed up and down, friendly or hostile. I'd like to see a little bit more variety there, maybe a sliding scale. Where we did, however, see a lot of variety was in terms of the custom difficulty settings, and the final setting that we'll look at in this, I know, very, very options-heavy beginning to the video. Trust me, there's more to uncover. The part that interests me the most here is that you can really finesse everything, from the amount of gold, science production, to their unit production, their commander experience. And when you look at these settings, it also just finally straight up tells you the kind of benefit that the AI will get on any given difficulty, from scribe right the way up to deity. These settings do not make the game harder than deity. Deity is still the maximum, but there's a lot more opportunity here, as I say, to finesse individual things right down to ocean damage. Wonderful to see this level of customization. And while that same level of change might not be available with the initial independent hostility assigned to independent powers, they did change. Firaxis have added, count them, 24 new city-state bonuses across the ages, at least one of them selectable by multiple civilizations. The idea here is to provide more variety in a game that will be larger, more on that in a moment, and the benefits, which I'll post down below. The full patch notes, of course, as always, linked in the sources section in the description. But the benefits seem to be fairly wide-reaching. Some of them are extra science on codices, extra culture, increased settlement limits, war support, resource capacity as well. Let's change pace just a little bit now and focus in on a kind of related area to the legacy paths, but one that has changed particularly so. The economic legacy path in Age 2, treasure fleets are now treasure convoys. With legs and wheels, these bad boys can now spawn on and traverse the land. This should make the overall objective easier. Treasure fleets are now also capturable when killed by a naval unit. Finally, introducing a much-needed element of piracy to this legacy path. Naval units can also conduct coastal raids. Furthermore, shipbuilding is no longer required to make treasure convoys, nor are fishing keys. Take care though, as they will take damage on their journey home. The ocean is still dangerous, but they no longer rely on it, nor the technologies associated with it. In the world, as I mentioned earlier, that is larger than, I was going to say ever before, but really is playing catch-up to previous Civs. We now have both large and huge map types, with increased player counts on most systems. Ooh, nuclear fission, by the way, also its own technology. No, not really a focus here, but just thought I'd slot that in. The focus now shifts to towns. Towns receive a new type, the resort town, as you can see in the middle here. The urban center has changed drastically, and actually a number of other town specializations that of course become available once a town reaches a population of 7. have changed. Let's take a look at each one using Firaxis's visuals. I'll link their great update video down below too. The resort town gives happiness and gold on tiles with high natural appeal and extra yield on natural wonders. That happiness and gold +1 changes based on the age. So 1, 2, 3. Urban centers now don't provide science and culture on quarters. No. It's +100% to gold and happiness maintenance, right? So it's cheaper to maintain. That is really the big takeaway out of those town types. Urban center changed quite a lot. Firaxis have said that they want to make it operate a little bit more like a mini city. You don't have a production queue to manage, but you do have more buildings on offer. The fort town now allows you to purchase not just one wall, no, many walls, making it maybe slightly more useful on the defensive anyway. The religious site has changed as well. It now provides +1 happiness on every single building in the town and an extra relic slot. It used to just give happiness on the temple. I reckon that's probably a change for the better, at least for big towns. Factory towns, not quite so hot. I don't know, an extra +5 trade range. I remain unsold on this one. Maybe you can convince me otherwise in the comments below. I don't know. Finally, a good change, trying to bring it up level-footed with the farming town. The mining town gives generally more production. +1 to each age. So in the first stage, you used to get +1, now you get +2. And that, of course, goes on to +3 and +4. Finally, the hub town significantly pulled back, now just +1 influence for every connected settlement. A big debuff there. Thank you very much, Ursula Ryan. Moving swiftly along, let's talk about religion. Few changes here. Firstly, to the Pantheons, a couple of new ones that can be chosen by multiple civilizations, catering a little bit to that larger player count. Nice to see. And beliefs across the board received more. Just like city-states, religion gets more. More relics for your own cities, or converting holy cities, for example. As you move through to your founding beliefs, there's a lot more generic ones here, I believe. Extra production, extra food, extra happiness, or making your temple great again with the Covenant. As we look at the final part of religion, I'm not going to focus massively on each individual change. Again, there are a few more than I've covered. They'll be in the patch notes down below. The last category, as big religious fans will be well aware of, is of course the Enhancer beliefs. The Enhancer beliefs received, generally kind of less support than the rest. A couple of generic abilities there. And the Missionary now has a new UI, so you can see your targets for your reliquary belief. They will be highlighted on the map, just like good settling locations are highlighted for your settler. Speaking of good things, generally, here's the new UI changes. The big one is the loading screen. They've kind of just sort of reformatted it. The information is displayed generally better. I'm not a big fan of this having to scroll still, though. I feel like that should go, but I'm not a UI designer, and I'm kind of speaking out of turn. Let's take a look at the general improvements, a couple of notable ones. Celebration information is now displayed on the heads-up display instead of having to dig through to it. The city panel could stay open. And global yields will update immediately. A few more changes buried slightly deeper in the patch notes. Tooltips will now display the production cost for buildings and wonders in the city production panel. And the Civilopedia received a bit of a glow up with these highlighted changes. Civilization balance is our next topic, something that was covered a lot in previous updates. We've seen sweeping reforms to civs. This time, there was not just one in Isabella, but actually 3 civilizations that have changed. The notable one, the featured change, was Isabella, who is now arguably much worse early on, and maybe scales a little bit better. You now get +50% tile yields to natural wonders, not +100%. However, that stacks per wonder, so it is possible to get the yield higher than it was before. The Inca also changed. Players can now create homeland treasure convoys worth 2 points in cities, so long as you have at least 3 mountains through their tradition. And Carthage also gets an extra great work slot after unlocking their Sicilian Wars mastery, if you're playing as Catherine. The next change that won't just apply to Catherine players, but everyone, is Steam Workshop support. Can I get a hallelujah? Here you can see it in action. Of course, it is still early days, but there are mods out there already, as there have been for quite some time, to be fair, both produced by the community, like ones you're seeing here, And Firaxis have also rolled out some official supports, some guides, and also some mods from within the Firaxis team. The very experienced Firaxis team when it comes to modding, if you dig through just a look at these, like the rework in the center, for example. Great to see Steam Workshop support, and I think that's probably a great point to end this video. A few other highlights though. Scouts, yeah, you can pat the dog, or pet the dog, as it were. Specialists have also been a little bit rebalanced, generally in the form of the policies that kind of reduce their maintenance costs. They've generally been halved. Firaxis say they'll be just as good, well, competitive with the rest. Time will tell. That's one I maybe have to dig into just a little bit more. Generally speaking, across the board, this update, I believe, is a big win for Civilization 7. As always, of course, please do let me know what you think of it down below. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time.